Good morning, students. We are in video 4 of OCAD. So, in the last video, we learned about the different types of organization changes and what are all the parameters considered when you go for organization change, right? So, here in today's video, we'll be learning about different organization change rules, that is change requester, change implementer, change approver, champions, agents, sponsors, targets. We just learned it in the last video. We'll just revise it once. So change requester is an individual responsible for initiating, preparing and submitting a change request. Okay, so change owner or assignee or implementer. Here, the individual deemed as an owner of the change request throughout the uh, request life cycle. Change approver is an individual who is responsible for approving or permitting the change request. Champions believe in and want the change, but they lack sponsorship to drive it. Agents have implementation responsibility. Performance is evaluated on the success of this implementation. Sponsors authorize and demonstrate ownership for the change or reinforce the change at local level. And then targets change behavior, knowledge, emotions, perceptions, etc. Next are the change initiators. So, who is a change initiator? He is someone who starts or initiates change management process. That could be the customer service level manager or your continual service improvement manager or problem management process manager, etc. It again depends how the organization sets their change management process. How do you initiate change? By making a call to action, by developing a reasonable consensus, by getting organized, by developing a concrete plan, by actualizing the planned changes, deciding whether the changes was worthwhile, and sustaining the changes. 5 steps to successful change. Acknowledge and understand the need for change. Communicate the need and involve people in developing the change. Develop change plans. Implement change plans. Evaluate progress and celebrate success. A change management strategy is a plan for how to make something different. In business, a change management strategy describes specific ways in which an organization will address such things as changes in the supply chain, inventory, requirements, scheduling, or project scope. Next are the change implementers. Who are those? Change management drives the successful adoption and usage of change within the business. It allows employees to understand and commit to the shift and work effectively during that period. The change implementer is the responsible individual for implementing approved changes. In some organizations, the change implementer is responsible for closing the change request with a change manager. In others, the change requester is responsible for closing the change request. Usually, release and deployment management process is responsible to implement these changes. Responsibilities of change implementers. Ensuring timely implementation of the requested change, follow time guidelines for executing remediation procedures, attempts to resolve any issues with the implementation, execution of change remediation procedures in case of a failure during one of the implementation procedure, updates manuals and or operating instructions when applicable, creates an incident ticket for changes that failed implementation, updates status of change ticket, notifies operations and or service desk with the status of the change, updates configuration management of status of CI. That is change implementation. So next is the steps to implement successful organization change. We learned what exactly is organization change and the terminologies, the properties of the organization change, right? Next is to implement successful organization change. what has to be considered. Hire people who thrive on change, that is, who thrive in the sense who work hard for making changes in the organization. Choose leaders who aren't too by the book, that is, they should have much more exposure and experience as well. Get employees involved. Communicate openly with whom? With the employees. Make and distribute a timeline. Determine how to measure success. Identify barriers to changes and then following up. Release manager is responsible for ensuring the change is implemented on the plan start or end days and as per the specification. Unless cancelled or rescheduled. Facilitating a post implementation review, that is PIR, and documenting the outcome of the PIR and closing the change request. Work complete, reset renew, cancel the change. Change manager is responsible for managing the change process, the itinerary maintenance calendar, and change restricted days to ensure minimal to no interruption to products and services that these supports. The change management provides approval or rejection of change requests, including one-time approval of standard changes, and again maintains process documentation and provides training to ITS. So next is the change facilitators. Who are the change facilitators? These change facilitators help employees adapt to new conditions by ensuring that employees understand the reasons for changes, obviously, right? Right. Successful organization. Facilitators also help managers identify options, communicate clearly, and resolve the conflicts. A facilitator plans, guides, and manages a group event to meet the goal. That is, to facilitate effectively, you must be objective and focus on the group process. That is, the ways that groups work together to perform tasks, make decisions, and solve problems. Facilitators are experts at leading groups through key meetings and gatherings. Advanced, for example, when it comes for advanced preparation, clear communication, active listening, and asking questions, timekeeping, establishing a psychologically safe environment for sharing, creating focus amongst the groups, and unbiased objectivity. A good facilitator will develop a detailed agenda for after discussion with organization leaders, use participants' names, call on people in the order in which they raise their hands, and make eye contact. Use the ground rule, that is, mutually agreed upon meeting rules for participants early on. Change recipient. So we learned about change request, change implementer, change facilitator. Now with the change recipient. Change recipients are defined as an individual or group of people who the organization must influence to initiate change. According to Monrose and Wilson in 1994 and Zalman and Duncan in 1977. Change recipients represent the largest group of probably the most adaptable to change. Thus, their response and reaction to change can fundamentally reshape the changes. And the agent of change is someone who sees a problem in their community, large or small, and does something to take action for additional changes that have been implemented. An agent of change, someone who sees a problem in the community, right? Large at all, and he takes some action regarding the sustainable changes that has been made to the organization. So next is the a change agent is a person from outside, inside or outside an organization who helps an organization or part of an organization to transform how it operates. They can be thought of as catalysts for change, a person who can make changes happen by inspiring and influencing others. OD practitioners, organizational development practitioners, are who are entrusted with the job to carry out the planned change process in the organization. These are the people with the ultimate responsibility to development and create organization wide effectiveness through challenging and changing its current practices. The primary goal of organization development is to improve organization's effectiveness. Therefore, the primary role of an OD consultant is to establish helping relationships within the organization with and between individuals and groups, as I discussed earlier, in to achieve that objective. The primary goal of OD is to improve organization. Therefore, the primary role of OD consulting is to establish helping relationships within the organizations with and between the individuals and groups to achieve the objective. So next is the, I think we're almost come to an end of this module. Internal OD practitioners take the main role in communication in most of the cases, unless they partner with another function in the organization. They need to be very active in connecting and communicating with the project's key stakeholders, which presents less of a challenge than it would for external OD practitioners. External OD consultants need to rely on organization internal members to communicate the progress. External OD consultants need to rely on organization members to communicate process. See, it's like both vice versa. Both internal and external, they should depend on each other for communicating or to go ahead with the particular changes that has been made. Right. The requirements for becoming a successful change leader. How do you do that, or how do you say that? A change leader is responsible for guiding an entire group of people through the planning and implementation of changes. This means they should be experts at knowing how to work together with others and build teams. Change leaders engage employees in the decision making process and encourage them to help each other better. Change leaders create or promote a changed vision, develop a plan for change, and manage to resistance and conflict throughout the change. The five rules of change leaders includes communication, advocate, coach, advisor, and liaison and resistance manager. So these are the properties or qualities which the change leaders should possess. Next is five roles of a change leader. The motivator. See, these are the example roles of a change leader. He can act as a motivator. Motivator can vary from person to person depending upon the speed of the person, the knowledge within one side, they represent to with the advisor. So yeah, so these are the different roles or different work that a change leader is supposed to do. To motivate, to mentor, being guided in the right direction is essential to success. The learner always aim to be better person today than you were yesterday. Yes, that they tell everywhere, right? The communicator and then so we learned about the five roles of a change leader, right? So we'll go to we are already at the end of first module, students. Characteristics of an effective change leader. What are the characteristics of an effective change leader? He has to initiate, he has to strategize, he has to execute, he has to support others, he has to be humble, he has to expect curiosity from everybody and start by modeling it himself. He has to expect initiative, he has to assess, he cannot judge, right? So these are all the characteristics of an effective change leader. See this again, they might give it for 7 marks to write the characteristics of uh, the effective change leader. Right. So first is initiate. What do you mean by initiating? Initiate is nothing but you go ahead, start something with that. You start, and then your team will follow it. Strategize is making a plan or divisions. When you have to start, how long you have to carry it out, what should be the end result, right? So those are called as strategizing. Execution. Next is execute. Put it into action form. And supporting others. Yeah, you need to support the team members or probably your department members. And be humble. Expect curiosity from everybody. See, it's like you want everybody to be on their toes. Okay, so that they might always ask questions. They might clear the doubts. Expect initiative. When you are taking initiative, you should also expect that someone else will take it this time. So let me take the rest. And you need to assess, you cannot judge, you just need to assess it. That is, fine, this performance was well or this activity is going on well, right? So assessing is different and judging is different. There are three C's of change leadership. Researchers have found out that three skills provide the necessary connection between the process part of change and the people part of change. These three C's are communicate, collaborate, and commit. Unsuccessful leaders Unsuccessful leaders tend to focus on the what behind the change. Successful leaders communicated the what and the why, both. Leaders who explain the purpose of the change and connected it to the organization's values or explain the benefits created stronger. And next, collaborators, bringing people together to plan and execute change is critical. So, successful leaders worked across boundaries, encouraged employees to break out of their silos and refuse to tolerate unhealthy competition. They also included employees in decision making early on, strengthening their commitment to change. Commit. So which characteristics is this? Commit is nothing but they make sure their own beliefs and behavior supported change too. Change is difficult, but leaders who negotiated it successfully were resilient and persistent also. So these are the strategies or parameters to become an effective change leader. So we are done with the first module for these 4 videos, children. So in the next video, that is video 5th, we'll be starting with the second module. So thanks for listening to the class, students. Ta-da.